Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Hello everyone, this is our predictions episode for 2018, but it sounds like that someone caved early to the pressure. Can you tell us about what you've done, Nick?
Yeah, I actually didn't intend to do this, but there's been so much desire from our side to get a new speaker, and obviously I've been really trying to hold out for HomePod, but over the sort of Christmas period or festive period, there have been some really good sales, and I was actually going to try get the 2 Google Home Minis for $79, and then just happened to be in JB trying to find stock, which they didn't have, and came across the Sonos Playbase. So I already have a Sonos speaker, so I'm kind of like somewhat in the system, the ecosystem, and so yeah, just kind of like was playing around with the Playbase and decided to get it. Got a really good deal on it, and it sort of now like fits in with my current Sonos and gives my TV better sound. So, yep, it caved, but the Apple TV is AirPlay 2 compatible, and so obviously is the HomePod. So I will be able to send music from my HomePod, or at least play them all at the same time via my Apple TV, which is really convenient.
Awesome. And so this is the latest one they released in, was it September?
I think that one was the Sonos one, which is like the one with Alexa. Yeah, no, this is not that.
Yes.
I would get that like because that's definitely going to have AirPlay 2 support also. So I might end up getting that in the future to further expand like whatever my HomePod does. But I really want to see from HomePod, how it fits in and how many of each do I want.
Okay, and just before we get into it, please hang around to the end because we have a bit of a special reveal for something that helps us kick off the new year. So we have our normal category product perception, but like last year's special predictions episode, it's called Product Predictions. And I've kind of laid this out in a sort of chronological order. But yeah, we're basically just going to let you know. These predictions are kind of like a mixture of what our gut feel is with what we want to happen, with also just taking into account the rumors and various reports from analysts and that type of thing. Okay, and I'm going to start this off with HomePod. I feel like a mid-March release at the latest. There was a recent rumor that it's 4 to 6 weeks from around this point. Now, there's obviously been a lot of back and forth with Nick and I that, I really wanted a keynote, but I've finally accepted the fact that I don't think there will be a keynote. It'll be an online launch only. I'm feeling good about a $499 Australian dollar price point. They'll do it via an updated landing page or a section on the website. I think it'll be accompanied by a bunch of how-to videos. Of course, there'll be an advert, and it'll have more of a Siri and HomeKit angle as opposed to what they showed at WWDC. So Siri now actually plays daily podcasts when asked about the news in iOS 11.2.5 beta. So this is kind of hinting at the fact that there's definitely going to be a bit more of a push on the Siri side of things than what they showed at WWDC. I don't think there'll be any multi-user at launch, unfortunately. I am fingers crossed that will come with the next major update. And in terms of something to compete with the Google Mini in that, you and I, like Nick, both agree that yes, a mini version of HomePod would be great, to compete at that lower price point. But if that did happen, I'm not holding my breath and I'm feeling like 2019. So what about yourself?
Yeah, so just, I guess, starting in like the reverse side, with the Mini, I see a lot of use for it. Obviously, I have a Google Home Mini, so it's kind of more for like just the smart side of it, not really the great sound part. So I'm thinking like in my like really small sort of where my office desk is, that would be really convenient just to put like a HomePod Mini there just for some like music, and again in the kitchen for timers and stuff. So I think for that to happen, they have to up the series side. Like, again, I don't think that they're behind or that far behind. It's just a matter of just making that closing off some of the general knowledge stuff that people think that it doesn't have, or that it doesn't have. And then in terms of pricing, I think they're going to go $449 in Australia, not $499. They recently sort of lowered their comparative pricing in Australia, so I'm feeling good about $449, especially if it holds the exchange rate under $1.30 to a US dollar. And I agreed, like, no keynote, and I sort of feel like if it doesn't come in March, by end of March, then they really have missed everything. Like, then they might as well not launch it at that point, because there's only so much you can wait for a product that's going to launch in the same state. I don't think that we're going to get any improved Siri compared to what they mentioned, because they did say it would have news at the WWDC. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I'm not holding out much hope for new features, and if it's a year later with the same features, then yeah.
I think when it comes to Siri, we'll cover that part in what I think is going to happen at WWDC this year. But yeah, anything beyond the end of March, really, yeah, that like when it was delayed into early 2018, we sort of were both in agreement that, okay, it's a disappointment, but it's not going to affect it too much. But yeah, certainly if we have to wait any more than a couple of months from now. But I'm still definitely getting one. I don't have anything in the way of the home speaker space. So, I am happy to wait, but you yourself, obviously, far more invested into that already. And yeah, the Siri side of it, I do feel like it's going to have more than what they did just preview at WWDC though. I don't think it'll be the ultimate Siri that we all want. I still do agree that Siri, yes, is behind in, say, compared to Google Assistant, but the gap is so much smaller than what people carry on for it that it's like.
Absolutely.
So, and you would know that yourself, obviously, with Google Home products. Anything else to talk about with HomePod?
No, other than I'm still really excited for it to come, so I hope it just comes soon.
Cool. And then in terms of other products that were previewed but not released yet, we have AirPower, and with that, the chargeable AirPods case. So where does this sit with you?
I think it will come in April. I think that they will be like quite pushing what they classify as early 2018. Then it will come in April. I think so. There's a lot of unanswered questions around AirPower, but I do think it will be pretty expensive. I think it will probably be $249 Australian. Ooh, maybe okay. I think it could be up to that, because it charges three devices at once, and bulk in one charge, one device per thing would be $99 each. So it's kind of like, well, 3 times that, and then a bit of a discount. So I'm thinking $249. And I really, I don't know what devices it will support in terms of Apple Watches. There have been mixed reports there, so I think that will be also interesting to see. I know obviously you and I have both got Series 3, so it doesn't directly affect us. But I know a lot of people don't upgrade their watch as frequently as, say, you and I do, so I think it would be quite frustrating for an 8 or 10 owner who also has AirPods and, say, a Series 1 or 2 to not have wireless charging. It would be pretty frustrating. So here's hoping they have it across the board.
Assuming that you get AirPower, do you think you're going to get the AirPods chargeable case?
Personally, definitely. Just on the AirPods case, availability, it obviously has to come out same time as AirPower, but in terms of pricing, I think it will be I would say $99 is a good price for it, and I definitely will be getting the whole thing. Like, definitely have to get both the AirPods case and AirPower, because I've been holding out from getting a wireless charging pad. So I really want it. And yourself?
Yeah, I also was, when they launched the 8 and the 10, and they had, okay, here's Belkin's offering, here's Mofi's offering, I was very tempted to just get one of those just so I could get into the wireless charging thing. But you kind of urged me that, that I'd probably regret it in the fact that I am keen on AirPower. And there's a couple of guys at work that have wireless chargers. I've chucked it on that every now and then, but because the iPhone 10 battery is so good, don't really have that urgency to need to do that.
Yeah.
So therefore, that's made me happy to wait. I do think it'll be compatible with at least Series 2. I don't think they'll cut off at Series 3. And for the AirPower, Matt, $199 would be a nice clean price. And then, I agree, $99 for the AirPods case, with new AirPods being the same $229. Like the case will just be the new standard. So, Belkin have announced a dual wireless pad, which is still not as good as AirPower because it still only covers two devices. And that's not available till mid-2018. I am thinking if HomePod is delayed till, if HomePod goes as far as mid-March, then maybe they could tie that in with AirPower, kind of like when they had, multiple products with the product red iPhone that time. Now, iOS 11.2 brought the 7.5 watt upgrade because it was originally at 5 watt. Do you think that iOS 12 would, just purely via a software update, could push it up to the 9 watt level like Samsung offer?
Well, I think they can push up like what the phone can receive. I'm not sure unless it already ships as 9 watt and then is capped to 7.5. I don't know how that would work. I suppose it also depends on the brick that they actually send out with it.
Yeah.
Or if it's actually just the mat that they say plug into your current lightning cable.
I think overall I am keen on it. The fact that wireless charging has finally come to iPhones, but it's still not a huge draw card for me. It's more purely because AirPower is this like multi-product offering that applies to the fact that you lay your phone down, your watch down, your AirPods down, and then your phone tells you kind of what's on the mat, what level it's at. That sort of feature is something that impresses me far more than just a static wireless charging pad. So
absolutely,
there you go. Okay, I'm going to switch it on to iPad and Apple Pencil. So before we get into the iPad Pro, there was some talk of the 9.7-inch iPad, which is now the cheaper level iPad, actually going even cheaper. So do you see any reason for that?
I don't know. Like, I suppose a year ago, I didn't really think about the iPad. Well, they used to have the Air 2, right? And then
yes.
I didn't really think of them making it cheaper, but it's obviously been extremely successful for them. I think if it hasn't actually returned iPad to growth, it has at least made sales stable. So I think it's been a really good product for them. I can understand why they would even further try and push the market, because tablets have generally fallen away with the likes of Android not even really competing in that space anymore, and just people doing everything on their phones. There is that, and Apple obviously sees iPad as like important to their business line because they can't put all their eggs in the iPhone basket. So I can see them, at least for education, and a whole bunch of like entertainment, all of that sort of stuff. I can see it happening. I just don't know. And also the fact that they have older like sort of processors and stuff. I can see them being able to drive it down because they're not updating the sort of design or any of the machines. It would just be an update of internals. Like, it's possible, but I think it's so cheap already. I don't know if they need to.
The type of price drop they're talking about is, so currently 9.7-inch iPad, the flat-out fun one, in US is $329, Australian is $469. They're talking about that dropping in US from $329 to $259, which would make Australia roughly $469 to $349, which is just like an insanely good price for what is. I mean, the iPad Pro is epically powerful, and the general iPad is certainly powerful enough for your entertainment and browsing consumption and all that sort of stuff, right? So if they did do it purely as just a move to kind of fill more of that space of people that obviously don't have the need for the iPad Pro, would they put maybe slight spec increase? Could they just keep it the same and drop the price? If they did, I think they would change the gold shade. So there is no rose gold version of it right at the moment, and so I think that just changed the gold shade to match the new sort of compromised gold they've got. And yeah, if it happens, it'll be a quiet online change. Might have like a little section on the homepage, but it certainly won't be a feature. I haven't thought too much about it. I mean, this just came from one report, but if it did happen, that's how I feel like it would go.
Yeah, it would be great to see, because at that price, it becomes a like an impulse buy a lot easier, because I find a lot of people be hanging around the like iPad table. They sort of ask how much it is and then think, well, do I really need it? And then sort of walk away at like that kind of price. You're just like, oh, $349, geez.
Yeah.
Do it, you know, like obviously I'm not scoffing at $349. I just think that, you know, if you're already kind of interested, it sort of like makes it a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah, particularly when there's watch bands that easily surpass the cost of a $349 iPad. So, okay, then that brings us to what has been actually the biggest surprise for me is iPad Pro, the one that I thought that you would snatch up as soon as it came out, even though you had the one from the year prior. And you yourself said that you were umming and ahhing. You kind of had it in your checkout for 30 times on and off, and then as time went on, it became less of an occurrence. And then you were sort of re-tempted again. So would us talking about the next iPad Pro be enough to make you want to wait till then?
Yeah, so I definitely want to wait, but the thing is, like, I don't know, that sort of. Everybody knows that, like everybody who listens to this podcast knows I love iPad, especially iPad Pro. And so it's kind of, there's a strong desire to buy it. Obviously, because, 7 months have gone by since the one was launched, like it's kind of the lessening over time, and I'm getting stronger at holding off. But obviously, the excitement of Face ID. So I was just chatting earlier with Michelle, my partner, about just how much I prefer Face ID in that it makes more sense, because there's so many situations. Like one of the things that I use a lot is Hello Siri. And so when I use that, and then I had to and then it says like, okay, you need to unlock. If I'm using my iPad, I find, or even thinking back to my 7 Plus, when I had to move my thumb there, it just was not as natural as just carrying on looking at the display. I always find like that's so annoying. Like, I've picked it up. It's me, just authenticate. And Face ID is so much closer to that. So that would be the big draw card. Obviously, I had spoken about 3D touch, and I think if it did have 3D touch, I would have bought it straight away. But now I sort of see that as less likely as time goes on. So I don't even hold out for that anymore. However, both, the iPad 12.9 in the house is getting a bit long in the tooth, and it's not working as well with the keyboard anymore, and it's just not holding up that well. So there is sort of like a need to get a new iPad in the next couple of months. So what I might do is get the new one for me, and then just pass that down when the new ones from 2018 are released. So could still happen, but I'm trying to hold off.
Okay, yeah, that certainly makes sense. And I think that applies to a lot of things in terms of, the longer it's left after a product launch, the sort of like urge to have the very latest kind of like dwindles a bit, and you sort of get a bit more of a realistic of, well, do I actually need it sort of scenario. Now, interestingly, talking about Face ID, I would love to have Face ID in an iPad. But do you think that, okay, so Face ID has just come out with iPhone 10. Are you actually realistically thinking that they're going to launch a Face ID iPad this soon?
They have to go all in on it. They really do, because I would say it's about 70-30 on people being sold on Face ID over Touch ID, and maybe 50-50 or maybe 70-30 the other way. But it's not cut and dried. Everyone prefers Face ID. And so if Apple's really trying to push it, I think they need to double down on it, and I think that it will work if they do. But especially when you have like a change in ecosystem. So now when I'm swapping between devices, it makes each one feel less natural. But if you have a whole ecosystem of things that are on the same basis, like I just think that would work better. And it's on the Pro model, right? So it's on the Pro model, so they can charge more if they need to. So it's, I think I'm hoping that it does. Steve Jobs would have.
Yeah. No, not that we like to, we're usually ones that don't hark back to what would Steve Jobs have done.
I
now,
meant that
before
ironically for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. Before I kind of rattle off how I actually think the features or how it will look, how do you think they're going to position Face ID? Because so many people use their iPads in landscape and not portraitscape. Copyright up a slice. So do you think they would implement two sets of true depth or somehow a true depth that can work on the side as well?
Well, they could, because it just gets translated into a mathematical model, right? They could just use they could try and rotate it so that nose is like directly between eyes. You know what I mean? They just have to rotate it. So I think it's possible for them to do it as is, and just like implement another sort of step in that process for authentication.
Yeah. So it's like an enhanced sort of version of what they currently have, just to allow that. Yeah.
In fact, you could even just take the device's orientation and just say, okay, if it is in landscape, just rotate the thing 90, whichever landscape way it is, because the device is already telling you that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so how it will look, I don't think that there's going to be any form of notch on this. I feel like it'll have a reduced bezel all the way around, but one that still contains the true depth camera. It'll be a uniform bezel. I feel like this now, because of that, the screen will have very slight rounded corners, so not as extreme as the iPhone 10, but just very slight. LCD display they're talking about, just because of the production difficulty of a OLED at that size. There's talks of an Apple designed GPU with it. I feel like it'll be the same 10.5 and 12.9 inch, I guess. So maybe the screen's staying the same size and the body becoming a bit smaller. I'm not sure. Aluminium, I don't think they could go as far as a glass back, even though you expressed an interest in that, a desire for that. But, and then the camera design, I think, will be redesigned, the rear camera, and that will be a single lens, and we won't see dual camera on iPad. So how are you feeling about that sort of stuff?
I do want to, I think the one thing I want to sort of chat more about is the glass back, and then maybe the redesigned camera. So glass back, again, I think this is about product unification. I hold Apple to an extremely high level for attention to detail, right? So one of the things that's frustrated me in their lack of attention to detail in the past has been like product naming across their iPad lineup, right? You go iPad, iPad 2, new iPad, and then like it's just been a disaster, right? All around, and it's been a disaster. And now, so something like this where you've got Touch ID on one, Face ID on another, 3D Touch on one and not on the other, wireless charging, glass back, it's just kind of like, it's different control centers. It's just kind of like, okay, can you get some unification? And I think it's possible. I think Samsung's had glass backs before, but in terms of durability, like what does it actually mean? And if you just chuck it in your bag, like how much more susceptible is that to breaking than a front glass panel, which is already there?
I'm thinking more along the lines of because you put your iPad down on the surface, and so it's like you can get away with it on a phone just because it's a bit smaller, but with something the size, it's just, to me, the chance for breakability at glass at that size leans me towards the fact that I'll just continue with aluminium, and the fact that wireless charging for iPad isn't probably a huge draw card or a need.
Yeah. And what kind of mat would they put it on?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you'd have to have like AirPower Plus or something. It would look cool. It would be a fingerprints disaster if it was the dark model. I would, just for own personal ease of mind and not peace of mind, sorry, and not wanting to put a case on it or anything, I would rather they continue with aluminium. But I think
they will.
I think they can kind of jiggle up the design enough with the sort of screen change and the camera bump change. So
yeah, I think it will stay glass back, but I think this is one of those. Usually I try and like stay realistic on these things, but I think this is just one of those where I start like thinking about what could happen if they did change it up. And then just on the on that, I was talking about this the other day again, and what was the point of 10.5? Like, what will the form factor of the new super reduced bezels be? Because will it just go back to the form factor of the 9.7 with a 10.5 display, and this was just a big head fake to get developers to update it, or to get people? What is it about? And I hope that question's answered.
I'm leaning towards 10.5 inch and 12.9 inch screens remaining the same size and the body reducing
to exactly the old 9.7, or am I being like overthinking it?
I don't think the body will become the same exact size as 9.7. I think there'll be a bit of enough of a shape change and stuff. I don't think that they can introduce 10.5 inch as a screen size in only just one model, and then the next year make that what would become an 11 inch or something.
I was still implying that it will still be 10.5, but just the actual body going back to the old 9.7 exact size, but like keeping the 10.5 with a reduced bezel. I don't know. I just think that the whole, I just really am excited to see what happens with iPad this year.
So are you talking about it like literally, like to the point that it could even fit in 9.7 inch cases?
Yeah, pretty much taking the same shell.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure. I am looking forward to a uniform bezel iPad again. That would be cool. But,
yes. It is very exciting. But one of the things that we use a lot with it is the pencil, right? So I think we spoke a bit about this last year, and I really just well, I'll let you run with it first. Like, what are you holding out for on the pencil? What do you hope will happen?
Okay, visually, I don't think it will look any different. I really am hoping for an eraser end option. That would be great. I was just using the pencil today, and I was like, it even to the point that I was just carrying around the pencil, and I was just kind of like flipping it around like you do a regular pencil, and it immediately just feels so natural that there should be an eraser-like function on the tip on the other end of it, right? So that would be great. I'm not holding my breath for it. I feel like if they do an update, it will be AirPower compatible, which would be interesting, just because it's size that it could fit. At least part of it could come to contact with the AirPower mat. And then it would probably just have some improvements in just the realism of the Apple Pencil, which is a high bar. So what about yourself?
Yeah, I think pretty much the eraser end option is likely to happen. I do wonder on a practical level how AirPower would work, because of how like the charging coils work. They're like these sort of large round coils, and I don't know how they could fit that in. But if I had to put that aside, that would be awesome. Imagine just like there's your mat and whatever Apple device you have, and you just like pop it on. Oh, that would be so cool. Or whatever accessory. Yeah. So I think for me, it's just really the eraser eraser end is will be super useful, and that's about it. I don't want any buttons on it, like a S Pen or anything like that. Or
no, screw that. No, it's so minimal and elegant. It's so Apple. It just looks very classy, even if it is still white plastic or whatever. Maybe I'll introduce another shade version of it if they want, like a space grey one. Yeah, that could be cool. But I love the way it looks already. I just think that extra functionality would be very welcome. And then we're going to flip it straight over to Mac. So macOS 10.14. Now, I know last time that when we spoke in the WWDC episode, there sort of wasn't too much to talk about in the High Sierra space. So can you see any direction in which Apple can move in the Mac software?
Yeah, I'm just trying to check on the map what I think it's going to be called. I had it in my head earlier and I've just forgotten it. But in terms of features, I do think there's this big talk about the unification of apps being across platforms. So you could have like iOS apps running on a Mac and Mac apps running on iOS. So that I think that will be like the headline thing for macOS, and pretty much stop at that and then keep on with Napa. I think it will be Napa because I think the name will be Napa because they had the wildfires up there later last year, and I think so it might be in like sort of memorial. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but yeah, just sort of to commiserate those wildfires. I think it'll be Napa, and it's pretty much just going to be a unification.
I love the idea of the app unification thing. I'm now sort of switching my mindset with everything to try and be more, what would Nick realistically think? And I still feel like that might be a 2019 thing. I would love for it to be this year. It'd be a great way to shake it up, a great way to prep, to get a head start, to let developers know as a way to get their apps ready. I would love it. It would be an awesome surprise, but I'm not banking on it. So in terms of what they could do aside from that, your general stability improvements, I think there'll be some demos and stuff, and a bigger focus on the sort of pro/machine learning end of things now with iMac Pro out. I hope they kind of revisit Touch Bar a bit with MacBook Pro. There has actually been more third-party support coming out. Had a great surprise for earlier this in 2017. I reviewed the Photoshop Touch Bar support, which I was really excited about. I thought I'd love for it to come to Illustrator, another major Adobe app that I use. Surprise, surprise, there was obviously an update occurred. I just opened up Illustrator as normal. I was like, what are all these controls here? And it's got awesome Touch Bar support. And so that sort of re-sparked my thinking that, okay, they're not just going to let Touch Bar die off. And hopefully they just expand on that a bit. Name change. I love the idea that you put forward of Napa. I certainly didn't think of that. Last year in our predictions, I said, yep, they're going to switch it to, lakes around Sierra Nevada, and my bet was on macOS Tahoe. I'm still sticking to that. I hope they don't go any higher than High Sierra. Cloud Sierra? I don't know.
Yeah, well, if there was a big focus on machine learning in the cloud, it could make sense.
Yeah, that would be... I mean, I love cheesy stuff. I love dad jokes, but that would be too much, I think.
Imagine they went back to cat names.
Yes. Oh, man, if they went to, like, reptile names, I'd be all in on that. I know they wouldn't, but I would so be in on that.
macOS Snake.
Yeah.
What about if they went
macOS
to...
Anaconda.
What about vegetables? Because, veganism is huge in the developer space. So,
Dude.
macOS capsicum?
Yes, yep. You took the words right out of my mouth.
I feel like I need to. That would be macOS pepper. If they were to do that, but I feel like I have to relay that the inside information that I have on this, which is obviously found out your favorite vegetable recently, which I was very shocked by. But
yeah, because you're like, oh yuck, you're like yuck emoji. I don't like capsicums. I'm like, what is wrong with you? But anyway,
I did have capsicum in my dinner tonight. Made ratatouille and big old capsicum in there.
Cool. All right, so speaking of Mac, they pre-announced in 2017 that there'd be a Mac Pro coming. I'm very confident it's going to come in 2018. I've got to just rattle off, I think, yes, we're going to expect, obviously, being that iMac Pro has come out and we know what the pricing of that is like. I feel like the Mac Pro is going to start at $5,999 and not, your $7,299 like iMac Pro, because I think the screen is what adds to that. They'll preview at WWDC. It'll be available late 2018. I think it'll come in 8, 10, 14, and 18 core like iMac Pro. It's going to have a whole new design. I don't think it's going to have the cylindrical rubbish bin shape, which I love. I love that design, but I think they've learnt from some of the restrictions with that design. So my guess is still on that kind of like app shape type tower, and it will be space grey aluminium. What about yourself?
Yeah, I don't really have much to add around that. I think the pricing will be interesting to see. Because obviously, as you say, the iMac Pro includes a display. So one of the things, I'll just move on, is that they've said they're going to have a Pro display coming alongside the Mac Pro, which
yes,
will obviously be USB-C Thunderbolt 3, like USB-C connector over Thunderbolt 3. And
it'll be their version of what it'll be what, like LG Ultrafine came out, it'll be like what Apple should have done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think it will basically be almost like the same specs as the iMac Pro's screen, 27 inches, the full sort of, color range, the 1080p webcam, our FaceTime HD cam. I think that will come in at about 1,800 Australian, 1,900 Australian dollars. So putting that together with Mac Pro to get it to iMac Pro pricing would be around 5,500 Australian. So I think it will be a little bit cheaper than the 6,000 that you mentioned, just so that the combination comes in around iMac Pro level.
I mean, going back to the design of it just has to, considering they've kind of pitched it as it's going to be a modular design. I don't think it's going to be crazy level modular like people depict, but I certainly don't think it's going to be as restrictive as some other people suggest. So that's why I was leaning towards that kind of like app-shaped tower sort of thing. Yeah.
Not being a designer myself, I really struggle to think of what else it could look like, because obviously from a tower, I wouldn't have been able to imagine anything else. And so it's kind of like really difficult for me to think about what it would be. I think with the modular side of it, as you say, it's not going to be as modular as everyone thinks. I imagine that some people think it's going to be like just a bunch of Lego blocks where you just like literally just put in every new component that you want. And, realistically, it's not going to be that. It will have easy user upgradable GPU, possibly CPU and RAM. Like what else? What else do they expect?
Yeah, pretty much.
Maybe hard drives.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, bring it back to that Pro Thunderbolt display. I think it's going to come with 4 Thunderbolt 3 / USB-C ports. I'm going that the 4K is going to be $11.99 Australian, 5K will be $9.99 Australian. Yeah, okay, so we're talking about going all in on Face ID. We would say it seems very obvious and very useful for having Face ID in a Mac, in a MacBook, in a Mac display. But if they push it out for iPad Pro, I know you talk about going all in, I don't think they're going to go as far as bringing it out for Macs this time round.
Why did they not do it for 5K iMac? Yeah, I think they would have done it for iMac Pro if they were going to do it in the next year, just because that's sort of leading the charge of their new Macs. Just going back, I don't think we'll get a 4K and a 5K version. I think we'll just get one 5K version. And I do think we'll get some USB-A type ports, just because of the massive backlash and the fact that they've included them on the iMac Pro.
You mean in the Mac Pro have USB-A or the display?
Well, in the actual Thunderbolt display.
Okay, yeah, because the previous Mac Thunderbolt display did have that, but I was more just looking towards the fact of what LG Ultrafine had, so I wasn't quite sure. And then to cap it off with Mac, Touch Bar. So we both kind of decided that we feel like there won't be Touch Bar in any form of keyboard or anything. I am still sticking to that. I just think hopefully a bit more support in the way of third-party apps and even their own apps. But yeah, I think it'll remain in the MacBook Pro for years to come, but I don't think we'll see it anywhere else. How about you?
Yeah, I really wish it had come to the iMac. It makes it really different. Like, it goes back to what I was saying about unification, and I can understand from a decision point of view that I think I mentioned this before with the touch bar on a laptop, your eyes are sort of looking all in the same region, whereas with a desktop they're looking up and your hands are sort of on the desk. So I get that, because usually on a MacBook, touch bar is just a glance away. So I get it from like that point of view. I just wish that they would say that or just do it. But I don't know if they're forgetting it, if they're not supporting it, if they don't care about it, or if it's just like a design decision like that.
Yeah, it's something I was very excited about. I still use all the time, but I am disappointed that it hasn't quite taken off. And certainly people seem to think of it as a bit more of a negative thing now, which is a shame to hear, considering I love it so much. Just to cap that off, I guess, with MacBook Pro, if we see anything in that space, it'll be a spec bump. I mean, they just spec bumped it anyway in 2017. Won't see a major redesign of MacBook Pro for a long time. And MacBook and MacBook Air, the 2017 slight little Air update they did, I think was the last thing they're going to do with it. They'll kill it off in a few years from the line. They'll might spec bump the 12-inch MacBook, bring in the new version of the Gold, and if it is to appear in anything, it'll be a quick part in WWDC.
So I think that if Apple does do the apps that run across both platforms, I think they're going to do a ARM processor for the MacBook. Just put in like an A10X or an A11X chip in there, and that obviously will have great battery life and be super fast. And so I think and also because of the scale which they produce that and design in-house, I think that they can reduce the price. So I think that if they can do all of that, they'll make it $999 US, and therefore, like, I think that's about 1,500 Australian, and I think that would be a killer product. So I think I'm being on the optimistic side, but all of that can come together to make a great product.
Right, that wraps up the Mac side of things, and we're going to turn it over to the big one that comes around September every year, and that is iPhone. So software side of things, iOS 12, and I guess HomePod OS, or however they pitch it, even if it even has a name or not, I'm not sure. At WWDC, I think there's going to be a big Siri focus. The Shazam purchase is definitely going to come into play. I think they'll debut some new sort of big IP or game. Hopefully that Zelda they were talking about. More ARKit related demos. They're going to keep pushing that. And more in the true depth camera features, because there was that reference to when Johnny Ive said upon the iPhone 10 launch, basically a year from that point, the iPhone 10 is going to be so much more different than we currently know it, purely based on the software side of things, right? So that's where I'm thinking they're going to do a lot with the camera in that space. Now, the battery management that they kind of promised in the next big software update, that will come into it. I don't know how major it's going to be as part of the presentation. And then, of course, aligning with that, there's the recent pressure about the parental control. So I think that will get a short section too. Not so much in the way of like, hey, people said this, just like, we've introduced these new improved parental control features, that sort of thing. I'm hoping that they bring back grouped notifications just to shut people up that complain about the fact that Apple don't do grouped notifications on iPhone. It's never been a huge issue for me, but it would be welcome to see that again. And just some way to align the kind of like the gestures and certainly the control center, particularly between now iPhone 10 and iPad Pro. And fingers crossed for multi-use on iPad, but not holding my breath. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with a large majority of those things. One of the things that I think really needs to happen is a lot of communication around what updating means, what devices sort of will be focusing on, like the battery management. I think there just has to be a lot of communication around that this year. Personally, obviously, I'll be upgrading to iOS 12, but I think given like all of the now proven battery stuff, there's going to be a lot of public skepticism. So I think they have to sort of focus on that. And obviously, one way to get people to upgrade despite their phone getting slower will be new emoji. So yeah,
yes,
definitely new emoji headline feature of iOS 12.
Definitely. Bring it over to the hardware. Back in August, we thought there was a glimpse of an updated iPhone SE to come out. Rumors have come around again that we're expecting to see a second iPhone SE in 2018. Do you hold much to this?
Personally, I don't think it's going to happen. If it were, I'd like to see glass back for wireless charging, AirPower compatible, and sort of a new camera. And I think that would be it for my feature requests on that device.
3D Touch?
Oh yeah, 3D Touch. I think for me the point of SE is to keep the price down, and so things like 3D Touch we know add thickness and stuff to the display. Would they be able to put in the same body? All of that sort of stuff. I think that in order to keep price down, they have to use a large majority of components. So I'm not sure, but I hope. Yeah. I guess glassback would require new tools anyway, so I just don't think we're going to see an SE again.
If we do, and I do actually hope it happens, it'll be via an online launch. It will happen in the first half of this year. As you said, the Touch ID, improved internals. I do think 3D Touch, yes. A design change, there is the rumour of the glassback to bring wireless charging, but again, is that one of those things that will just increase the cost anyway? I'm not sure. They won't reuse the same flat edge design. I think it's going to have rounded edges. Think like a smaller iPhone 8, perhaps, and it will be space grey, silver, and the new shade of gold. So anyone that still is chasing that smaller size screen, this is all very much up in the air, and it's just a case of, it'd be cool to see, but don't kind of like take our word for it that it's definitely going to happen. And then the next version of iPhone 10. So September event as always. I think it'll have same design, maybe slight potential for reduced micro bezels, but I doubt that. I don't think it's going to have any name change, which Agreed. Was going to be which is going to be a first for the phone lineup. There'll no be XS, which would just be terrible, even though 10S, but it looked like XS. Anyway, you know what I mean. I think updated specs and the camera. They're going to have an enhanced version of the True Depth camera. It's going to have this fifth generation of wireless they're talking about, but it'll seem like an S cycle. It just won't have that S part added to the name. Anything you'd want to add to that or think different?
Yeah, I think I agree, because even at the launch of iPhone 10, I thought I just don't get the sense that it's going to be really updated next year. I think it's like, other than internals and improved Face ID, which are like just gimmies, I think that it's going to be largely same device, same features, and just sort of like, this is the future of the phone.
Do you think they'd even move into another color?
Yes, I do. I think that the extra gold that's available on 8 and 8 Plus would probably come to 10, just because that I think they just went with space gray and silver in the beginning. Fewer SKUs is easier to manage for production.
Plus, I also think they kind of use that new shade of gold, the new style, having that light back, as a bit of a tester with iPhone 8, and it seems to prove really popular so far. So they could kind of take that and think, okay, yeah, will this work for iPhone 10?
Yeah.
A larger version, iPhone 10 Plus, is this going to be happening?
This is so. I really.
It's so hard because the current iPhone 10 screen is larger than the 8 Plus screen.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, is there really a need for that? I guess one of the things that I really have struggled with this year compared to last year I felt like going in, I knew Apple's strategy, I was comfortable with what was going to happen, and I sort of had their product map. Even if we got it slightly off, like, I just felt like I had a better idea of their vision. This year, I just feel like it's just improvements on a really good base, and we'll get more surprises in their like lesser known product or lesser popular product lineups in the Mac and iPad. So that's kind of where I think a lot of it's going to be. And the phone this year, I think, will just be like iterating on a great base of iPhone 10. iPhone 10 Plus, I know one or two people have mentioned to me they wouldn't mind a bigger size. Maybe Apple also thinks there's space for that.
Yeah, there's certainly kind of more and more reports coming out in the tech space of there being a larger 6.5-inch screen that would be provided by, the panel would be by LG, whereas the standard 10 is by Samsung. So, yeah, it'd be cool to just be like, hey, there's a larger version, but I mean, I certainly won't be getting it. The 10 for me is just perfect size. Then just to kind of switch it up even more, there's a rumor of a third a flagship iPhone that its screen size and physical size falls halfway between current iPhone 10 and this rumored 10 Plus. This still seems very odd to me, except for one reason. But before I get into that, do you think this is even going to happen?
No, I don't think it's going to happen. If SE gets updated, I definitely don't think it's going to happen. If this is like some budget iPhone, then maybe I don't know. How did they go from 10 to 10 and 10 Plus and something in the middle? I don't know.
This is kind of like the whole blush gold thing. It's like remember everyone's like, oh yeah, this is this gross kind of like foundation toned supposed copper color is going to come out, and then it just never saw the light of day. So maybe this is like that. But these rumors are starting far earlier than that blush gold rumor did. What they're talking about is a 6.1-inch display that is LCD and not OLED, which I find strange because I thought the advantage of the OLED was the fact they could shape it with the notch. Yeah. So I found that a bit weird. They're saying that it's going to have a lower pixel density than the current 10, so it'd be more like the 8 pixel density. I think if they do this is just me just trying to create a reason for it, is it'll be the same materials as 8 and 8 Plus, so it'll be the aluminium with glass. It'll have a iPhone 10 style design because, if they're going to remove Touch ID, it's going to have to be Face ID, right? Physically sized between 10 and 10 Plus. The internals of it will be pretty much what the 2017 iPhone 10 was. Again, not really sure why, other than for it to be an iPhone 9. And price-wise, it'd be from around $12.99 AUD, with the current 8 Plus is $12.29 Australian. Which then kind of like jumps me on to, is there going to be a 9 and 9 Plus? So I think the iPhone 8 was the last flagship phone with Touch ID. The third middle size iPhone I'm talking about is going to be the replacement for it. This is if it exists, and it'll be a single model. So there's obviously no Plus version of it. Don't know what the naming would be. iPhone 9, I guess, seems logical, kind of. And then the 8 and 8 Plus would get a price drop. This one has just kind of baffled me because if the reports are true, I'm just trying to create a reason for its existence.
Yeah, and on the 8 and 8 Plus, or do they become a 9 and 9 Plus? I think that in the same way that the iPad 2 stuck around for ages and ages after it was the flagship, I think that the 8 and 8 Plus will, just because they offer that sort of security of a home button for a lot of people and that familiar design. So I think that they'll stay around for a while, like another 2 years, but I don't think we'll see updates on them in any way.
So you're calling it that you just think there's any existence of an iPhone 9 just won't happen?
Yep.
Okay. See, that seems more logical to me, just because I'm just kind of like spitballing here with this existence of this iPhone 9, because it just seems weird that something that'd be called iPhone 9 looks like an iPhone 10, but name-wise 9 comes before 10, but it was released after 10, but it's a lesser version. Oh yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think they have to like cut that off now and just leave those and sort of move with the future of the phones in like a future body and future internals. But
I think if you're saying 8 and 8 Plus are going to stay around and there is no third middle size iPhone, then I'm feeling like a 10 Plus is probably more likely to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just as we begin to wrap up these predictions, Apple Watch with Watch OS 5. Anything that you really want for Watch OS 5?
I want some more health measures, like maybe some more stuff, some learnings from the heart study maybe integrated there to be able to tell us whether we have a fib or not. It's just some more stuff around like around health. And that, I guess, is it. Obviously, the major draw, being podcasters ourselves, is podcasts. So that would be absolutely fantastic. And some more watch faces. I really like the Siri watch face. I like the Siri watch face. So some more features coming to that would be great. It's not very good at like telling me where I am throughout the day on my activity. So yeah, just integrating more apps, maybe some third-party apps into Siri watch face would be awesome.
Yeah, I certainly think podcast is a huge one for us. I'd love that. Please just roll it out. I think more independent app focus being with Series 3 and Cellular. I think there'll be another brand tie-in with the watch faces like they did with Toy Story and that. New general watch faces. Obviously they had Siri and Kaleidoscope last year. Possibility of a watch face store, so people to be able to actually sell watch faces. That would be cool. I kind of think probably unlikely, but it'd be cool to see. And then that brings us to actual hardware. I'm still gunning for a Series 4. You're sitting on the fence about it from last we spoke?
When you say gunning for it, you mean like you reckon there'll definitely be one this year, or you want to buy one?
Well, that all depends what it's like. If it's physically the same, probably not. My Series 3 is very new. It seems kind of stupid to talk about that, but I'm trying to think like, by the time September, October rolls around. I guess it's just because it seems like it's happening each year. Yeah.
It's kind of hard to predict. That it's obviously pretty early on in watches' lifespan, so we don't really know what their intention is on updating. However, the design is a bit old, and that's fine for watches, right? Because watches, I don't think people wanted to have an old looking watch in 1 year. So I'm fine with that. I think that we'll see. I don't think they'll be adding any more radios in, right? It's got Wi-Fi, GPS, and cellular now. It's got everything that it needs that the phone has. So I think now they can start focusing on either improving battery life in the same shape or making it thinner. Which do you think Apple will do? Despite 4 years of going the other way on phones, I think that they will make it thinner. Hopefully with the same watch connector. I know some Apple pundits didn't reckon that would happen. And otherwise just sort of building on the platform that they set.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the first year for a hardware change. It's certainly not going to be dramatic. If anything, it'll be thinner. Maybe they will make the kind of like protrusion of the digital crown a bit more subtle, maybe. It still needs to be functional, obviously. I don't have a problem with the current one, but that's kind of like something I'm thinking they could change. There'll be a big health feature with it, whether that's in the form of an accessory or not. And I think that they'll shift to the micro LED tech that we were talking about for the display, and possibly push it from 1,000 nits to 1,250 nits. and then your general improved internals and speed and Siri response and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, maybe a louder speaker for Siri or something.
Yeah. I just think things like that. Like, they don't need to do heaps it's not like the phone where it's just packed with so many different features.
Yeah.
It's like the watch is feature packed, but there isn't that pressure to do dramatic redesigns, and the competition is just pales in comparison anyway.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then to cap that off, watch bands. So there were just some new bands recently, plus I think that there'll be more later in the year, and then certainly around the September launch. Really hoping for some Space Black lugs option on the leather. That'd be a big one for me.
Yeah, I saw they've recently sold out of most of the leather options. So usually what that spells is new ones incoming. So I think we'll probably see new bands around the launch of HomePod late February, early March, as their sort of summer range. Then again in June for their winter. I don't know if they did winter. I think they did. I think they've been updating like 4 times a year or 3 times a year. But I know they've had spring and autumn versions, so it'll be interesting to see what they have, but definitely some new colors around the sport band and in the leather options. I really do hope for Space Black lugs, but just seems like they're not going in that direction. But it would be awesome for the leather.
Space Black lugs on a midnight blue leather, sign me up.
If they did Space Black lugs on a pink fuchsia, sign me up. It's just like give me any. I have the original black leather band, and it's great, but I can't wear it with this watch. It just doesn't look right with the silver lugs.
All right, but the good news is it's not far between releases of bands anyway, so that's good. And I guess something we haven't talked about: Apple TV OS 12. I'm still feeling like Apple are going to have this long-awaited Apple video service. There'll be more aligning with that. There'll be more focus on the TV app. If they do anything with multi-user in any of the other OSs, then a TV multi-user would align with that very well. Hardware itself, no new hardware really needed at all. Again, I just think that this new video service that they'll show off at WWDC will help push sales of TV 4K. Is it still too early for you, do you think, for their own video service?
Yeah, I don't think that is going to happen yet. I think it will just still be through Apple Music. Yeah, I don't think there'll be any new hardware. Actually, I don't think there'll be major changes. I think considering in tvOS 11, the highlight was, Amazon Prime Video, which was not even their thing. So I don't know. I think multi-user is something we've both spoken about for every home device that Apple sells, and the fact that I just don't think that it's coming. But yeah.
Well, hopefully we're pleasantly surprised then. All right, that wraps up our predictions for 2018. All right, Nick, there you go. We have stared into the crystal ball. We have put our thoughts out there. It was actually interesting listening to, at the end of 2017, listening to our predictions 2017 episode. There was actually a fair amount that we got right, which was cool to see. So come the end of this year, we may be bang on, or we will probably be just laughing ourselves into a stupor. Of course, with other bits of news and stuff that come out, and any sort of snaps we get, and in terms and stuff like fans sending us photos. If you want to check out that sort of thing, you can follow us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for Apple Slice Podcast. Of course, you can also search in your player. And we are part of Ozcast Network. It's AUSCAST network.com. You can find us there. And, of course, the almighty home of Apple Slice, appleslice.com.au. So is there anything else to add to this special predictions episode?
Don't hold it against us if we get it wrong. But, here's to an exciting year in the Apple product space.
Cool. And to kick off 2018, as promised, there is a special reveal. And so what happened is myself and my friend Tim, we co-created a reimagined version of our theme music. It's the same. We've had the same theme music of Apple Slice since the start, and we thought let's just freshen it up, but still be recognizable. So it's kind of like this organic and digital sort of combination. And I think for us, it helps us stand out amongst other tech podcasts that just have like some sort of synth line or something. So there you go. That's my take on it. I'm really proud to reveal it. And as I said, my friend Tim, the guy that hopefully will be getting the iMac Pro, he is starting to release some solo instrumentals under the name Checking Locks. He's going to be releasing this theme on Apple Music and Spotify very soon. So we'll do the announcement for that. And that should be within the week. So, yeah, there you go. Kicking off 2018. Looking forward to catching you in the next episode.
See ya.
And without further ado, sit back, relax, but crank the volume. Here is the new version of the Apple Slice theme music.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.